This book has my least favourite POV intense combination, but it also has my favourite thing to have in a book, which is a man that's really annoying that I can throw all of my anger, frustration towards. Yeah. Welcome to book club, where I talk about books in all spoilers because I can't be cryptic. I can't complain about Kiril without telling you what happens in this book. I originally found out about this book from Vintage's newsletter, and I think I expressed interest in it by probably clicking a button or something, because then a while later I got an email like, here's the NetGalley arc, if you'd like it, you expressed interest in this book. So yeah, very pleased. It sounded exactly like something I was gonna read and buy anyway, and did not disappoint. I think I am gonna physically buy this book when it comes out. As of right now, it's not out yet, but it will be out when I post this. So yeah, I'm very excited. I love it so much. So the general premise of this book is we have a village that's overrun by superstition. A lot of bad things are happening and negative omens, and we have someone who's now coming into the village and saying that she can rid the village of these omens because she can help them and offer her services to them. And this is essentially a scam. Yana's planting seeds for them to hire her to get rid of a vampire, but to the villagers, they already have had bad things happening to them for years. Like, their youngest batch of children are all around 18 at this point. They have a widow who they believe is a witch. She was widowed and then she slept with a man, and that man was like, I didn't cheat on my wife, she's a witch. Yana's taking advantage of this and sort of confirming all of the villagers' fears by setting up more things for them to be worried about. So she's like putting dead animals on the steps of the church and things like that, in order for them to hire her to get rid of all of their bad things that are happening. That's Yana. We also have the captain, the man who's kind of then agreed to hire Yana. He doesn't believe in the superstitious stuff, and he is kind of just hiring her to like calm down the villagers. He's got 2 adopted children. I had to take a moment because I hate it so much. The child that he has adopted is the child of the woman that he was in love with who died. He's adopted the baby, raised her to be a grown-up, and has always intended on marrying her. Then we have Kiril, his other adopted kid, who left the village for a year to train in medicine, and now he is coming back to open his own practice to, in his head, help the village, because he thinks they're all idiots. That's the general premise and setup. I'll be talking about the book now as if you've read the book and know the ending and all that sort of stuff. I'll still contextualize it, but yeah, it's going to be spoiled from here on out. Let's start with Kiril, because he aggravates me and I'm just going to end up complaining about him anyway, so I may as well get it over with. We see how annoying Kiril is from the start, right? Because he's sitting on the roof with his friend that he's met in this new city, and they're both watching this comet fly across the sky, and the friend asks Kiril to write. And Kiril, in his head, is just like, I'm never gonna write to him. I hate him. He waltzes back into town as this boy saviour, and the first thing he does is get himself involved in business that isn't his. So we have the carcass of a bird that's been opened on the church steps. We know this is Yana doing this, but everyone else is thinking that it's obviously a vampire. I think it's missing a heart as well. Yeah, it's missing a heart. And some people think it's to do with the widow who has been locked up in the jail cell, who's also heavily pregnant. And the boy's saviour waltzes over, first of all, undermines the villagers, and just assumes that it's a cruelly considered joke. What I don't get is how he has the nerve to waltz back into the village after a year of being gone and just assumes that he knows more about the situation than everyone else. These people have been living this. They've been here. They've been here the whole time. And he waltzes back in. He's like, obviously a joke. No. He also immediately gets into a fight to save Nina, which is like fair enough. But again, the boy's saviour, he's only doing it to make himself feel better. I feel like that's why he does everything he does, because he's annoying. No selfless good deed has ever come from Kiril. None, and I hate him for it. The problem with Kiril is because he was raised by the captain, he is always in his head comparing himself to the captain, and the captain is always going to be worse. Of course the captain's going to be worse, no matter what happens, because he's an awful person and he's raising a child that he intends to marry. So compared to that, and he also beats Kiril and all that sort of stuff. So compared to that, Kiril is a saint. And Kiril acts like it, but he's not a saint. Just by being around someone who's evil does not absolve you of your guilt of being an annoying and selfish person. I say annoying and selfish, but Kiril has this streak of cruelness in him. It pops up all the time, and it's mainly towards Anka. Anka is the other adopted kid, so she's basically his sister. He has saved her from the drowning. He's lived in the same house with her his whole life. He left her there with the captain. He left her with the creepy old man who wants to marry her. He's come back to protect Anka, but one of the first things he does when he's in a room with Anka and the captain, the creepy man who wants to marry her, who is the real threat to Anka, is highlight how much she's looking like her mother. The woman, hang on. Okay, so a portrait of Anka's mother has hung in this house since she was a baby, and basically the captain has been like, this woman, I love this woman. I love her so much. I wanted to marry her, but I couldn't because she died. You, baby, actual literal baby, will grow up to look like her, and when you do, I'll marry you. Ah! So the first family dinner they all have together, Anka does a little bit of a jab at him, and in retaliation, he comments about how much she's starting to look like her mother, and it's cruel, and it's awful, and it's so petty, because he's basically saying, I have come in and I'm going to be a successful doctor. I'm a grown-up now, and you have to know your place, Anka. You are just destined to be this woman and to be the captain's wife. Know your lane and stay in it. I hate him so much. And he says that it's cruel. He says that it's cruel. It says a cruel familiar feeling runs through him. It's calming. Like, he's comfortable being mean to Anka. He's also very naive, or just so delusional that he's talked himself into this, but he thinks the captain's never gonna hurt Anka. And he says to Anka, he loves you. It hurts to say it. His own voice sounds pathetic. Starved. Don't you understand that? He even respects you. And like, that's so naive. It's so naive, and I just don't understand. Baffled. Because it's the even that gets me. He even respects you. Because to him, loving someone does not automatically mean that you have to respect them. He's like saying it like he's baffled that the captain loves Anka and he even respects her, as if that's the baseline that Anka should be happy with. She should be pleased that the captain even respects her. And the captain doesn't. The captain doesn't respect her. The captain respects Anka in the way that an adult respects a child, because the child is just telling the adult what they want to hear. And as soon as Anka starts to become a woman and disagree with the captain as an adult, that respect is going to be gone. It's going to be gone. Right now, she is clay for him to mold, and that's all going to vanish. And Kiril can't see that. He sees how the captain treats women. He watches women go in and out of the captain's house, and he never would think, oh, maybe the captain would hurt Anka as well. No, but for some reason, Anka's the exception. The captain would never hurt her. But what I think is a very key part of this is that Kiril views Anka as being this woman that the captain would never hurt, and puts her in this sacred wife category. But something that Yana notices, who I haven't really talked about yet, but when Yana comes into the picture, she, is interacting with them and is growing close to them and learns all these things about their inner workings of their household. Yana sees the gifts that Anka has been given from the captain over the years and notes how they're gifts that you give a mistress. And I just think that's interesting, because Kiril thinks that Anka is put on this pedestal and she's never going to be hurt by the captain, but a woman is looking at their situation and doesn't see Anka as being the person on the pedestal. She sees Anka as being the mistress, which I think puts her in a very different and dangerous category. And what's awful is that poor Anka is pleased that Kiril's back, because she thinks to herself, if everything gets so bad, at least Kiril can kill her. And Kiril just doesn't see any of this. Kiril's biggest fault is that he sees himself as smarter than everyone else in the room. And I think that goes for not believing Anka and her real worries about the captain. She explains all her worries about the captain to him and he doesn't hear her. And he thinks he's so much better than everyone else. Like, even Yulvia, hang on, is that how you say her name? He thinks to himself about Yulia. People who meet her sometimes think she's simple, but Kiril knows that it isn't true. That line aggravates me so much because it feels like he's patting himself on the back for not thinking that she's simple, when the default should be that he sees her as a whole human person, and she doesn't, because Yulia works for the captain's household as well. And I would bet money that the village don't think Yulia's simple. I think Kiril just assumes that they would, because, you know, she's a woman. But he's like, I see Yulia as a real human person. I'm so good. What I think perfectly encapsulates this whole thing of Kiril thinking that he's smarter than everyone else is the line, "Don't be so dramatic, Anka. You're a little anemic. You aren't going to die." Anka's been slowly feeding herself poison because she's gonna stage her own death. She might die. That's the plan. And he's like, "You're a little anemic." He's a doctor. So what's going on with Anka is she's hiding the fact that she started menstruating because that's the sign that she is ready to marry the captain. So she's been putting this off, and her and Yulia have been like keeping it secret and under wraps. Kiril finds out that she started menstruating a while ago and is almost relieved because it means, first of all, that this whole chapter can be put to bed because he's selfish. And also it means that the captain's going to stop sleeping with the other women in the village. One of them being Nina, the widow that Kiril has become interested in. This is the widow from the beginning who everyone presumed was a witch. She's heavily pregnant. She has been sleeping with the captain kind of as, like, you know, it's a power imbalance. The captain wants to sleep with her. She can't really say no. So Kiril is like, perfect. Anka is now of age, so she can just sleep with the captain instead. And he's going to leave my girl alone. Perfect. And he, for some reason, thinks that Anka will be safe. That the damage that is done to Nina will not be done to Anka because she's special and different. I don't know. And Anka tries to explain this to him and he just doesn't get it. He says to Anka, "I think it's selfish, cowardly even. You see how he is with women like Nina. He only wants you." And then Anka says to him, "You think I should let him hurt me instead." And he says, "But he won't." And then they recall the time that Anka drowned at the lake and Kiril saved her life, and Kiril was beaten and punished for it, and Anka was, you know, nursed back to health, and this whole awful dynamic that they've had in their childhood, which I understand. But he's a grown-up now, and he needs to see what's going on around him. So Anka asks Kiril, "You haven't told the captain yet?" And he says, "I was hoping you would do the right thing." Why is it the right thing? To save Nina? So the captain will stop sleeping with the woman that you want to sleep with? Because you don't want to share? Ew, no, I take that back. But basically, he's sacrificing Anka so that he can have the woman that he wants. He doesn't care about anyone's problems unless they directly involve him. And I hate that. He will always choose himself. He's like, God forbid he finds a solution that could maybe fix both of their problems, you know? But he won't. He never will. And then you know what he does? He sells her out. He tells the captain her secret, and yeah. Awful person. And before Kiril left, he had this infatuation with a girl he grew up with, Margarita. And then now that he's with Nina, he feels different. Margarita's got married to their friend Simon. But he says that he thinks to himself, he's released Margarita like a caged bird, found her even lovelier in flight. And just, I feel like it's really interesting in that that's how he viewed her. A caged bird. Margarita wasn't Kiril's to release. He never had her. She wasn't his bird to keep in a cage, and she wasn't his bird to release. After he tells the captain about Anka, he notes, something has broken, something he didn't know could crack. And I really do think he took his relationship with Anka for granted and never fully realised that Anka was someone that he could lose. I don't think he ever saw her as someone who had enough agency to write him off and to not consider him a person in her life anymore. And I think he definitely did take her for granted. And then when he considers that Yulia might also have lied about Anka being ready to marry the captain, he thinks to himself, she knew what keeping Anka from the captain cost the women of the village. She saw them in and then straightened their clothes before they fled. I don't understand why he thinks that Anka, like this is a fair exchange, that this has to be one or the other. And it's keeping the thought that they're keeping Anka from the captain kind of just always implies that Anka's always been the captain's property. He's never considered what Anka wants, and that's so frustrating. And I don't get it. He's never considered. Anka sums it up perfectly towards the end of the book. She says, "You're not enough like him to please him. You're too much like him for anyone else to love you." What made this book a really good reading experience for me is that Kiril doesn't go unchecked. Nina basically says everything to him that I was wanting to scream at him while I was reading it. So he goes to her house after he's outed Anka's secret to the captain, and he basically goes there and brags to Nina that he saved her. He's basically like, "Captain's not going to hurt you anymore because I sold my cousin out." And she's understandably, Nina's like, "What?" So he says to her, basically, "I've saved you from the captain. He's going to sleep with Anka now." And she says, "You decided to keep me for yourself instead. I didn't want him to hurt you again. You and all the others here. Anka's been selfish. I did it to protect you. I spent 4 months chained to a wall so some men could feel safer. Do you know what it's like to be sacrificed?" And then Kiril says he's never raised a hand against her. He then tries to prove to Nina that the captain would never hurt Anka, and he shows his injuries that the captain's done to him, because poor him, and basically is like, he punished me instead of Anka, he'll never hurt Anka, not realizing that there can be different types of hurt. You can hurt someone by physically beating them up, but you can also hurt them in ways that are so much worse. And he just doesn't get it. And then Nina says, "And when you move here into this house, who will he punish instead? There are plenty of us. If he doesn't break her bones, you'll never know. Do you want to know? Do you want to see?" And then Nina starts to unbutton her dress and shows him the damage that the captain has done to her. He refuses to look at her and see the captain on her skin, but even the way he describes it, I think sounds like not violent enough. Like he's sort of almost still viewing the experience as like a sexual one, and like one that was consensual. This conversation he has with Nina influences his decisions at the end of the novel. It doesn't make him do anything about it. It just makes him not stand in Anka's way. And that, I suppose, is good enough because Anka can get her shit sorted herself. But it doesn't actually incentivize him to save Anka. It just incentivizes him to be like, "All right, Anka, yeah, if you want to kill him, all right." All right, we're leaving Kiril to the side now, and let's talk about Anka. I know I've been talking about Anka, but not really like her actual plot about what's going on with her, just in how awful Kiril is to her. But I love Anka. I love her so much. This book, I really enjoyed Anka. I feel like I needed to have her point of view to be able to put up with Kiril's point of view, you know? Like, I had to have both. I know that Yana's in it. Yana, I feel like, is sort of moving in the background a little bit. So we're gonna sort of talk about Yana with Anka because they sort of operate, I think, as a team. Yeah, I love them. I love them. So as a way to free Anka from the captain, Anka, Yulia, and Yana have devised this plan to basically slowly poison Anka to the point where she is basically dead, and they can fake her death, and Yana will use all of the superstition that she's built up of surrounding the village as a way to sell this death, and to basically also sell having Anka be buried further out from the village and maybe not doing traditional funeral stuff, and sort of to sell this and also to keep people away from her. I love girls messing around with poison. I think it's great. I think it's also just an interesting way for Anka to escape the captain, because she's kind of doing the woman's way first, like the poisoning and the quiet and the sort of like herbs and women in the kitchen sort of traditional thing of associating women with that kind of violence, which is poisoning, than the kind of violence that Kiril and the captain are displaying, which is very physical. I just thought it was quite interesting, and I really liked it. As a means to escape the captain, I think it's a smart plan. I think it was going really well until Kiril was a dick. This is also why it was funny to me that Kiril's like, "You're just anemic. You're not gonna die, Anka," because she was gonna die. He was gonna see her die in like a couple days. That's what he deserved. I wish she died in his eyes so that he'd feel really bad about it forever. We do see Anka be this strong, fierce, violent person with other people, Kiril mainly, but not with the captain, because of course she can't be. But she has this like really physical altercation with Kiril in the very beginning where they're fighting on the stairs, and like they're like grabbing at each other and ripping each other's throats and scratching at each other and like really trying to hurt each other. She has these violent tendencies. She's been brought up by a man who is violent alongside a cousin who is violent. So of course she would be violent also, but I think no one considers her to be that type of person because she isn't a man. And the other two are the violent ones. And Anka is just this precious little bird who is just a little bit like snappy of late. So she is underestimated a lot of the time. And I think it ties in really interesting with one of the beginning things that happens. The book opens with Yana in a different village doing a different ritual, and in this ritual she says, hang on, so the stable boy is helping Yana out in this ritual that she's doing in a different village, and she notes, he must be stronger than he seems if he can manage the horses alone, but fear shrinks him. And I think that's key, because fear also shrinks Anka, and the fear of the captain shrinks her. And once she kind of drops that fear, and it's all closing in on her and she has no more choice and she's backed into a corner, she does have her full potential, which is killing the captain. But I'm jumping ahead. One of the sad things I think about Anka as well is that she always refers to the house as the captain's home, and it's her home. This is where she was raised, and in her point of view, it is always referred to as the captain's house. It's not her home, it's her room. She has a room, but that is not her home. And it's just so sad. And I think it does really show how she thinks about that space. Even if she's not outrightly saying that's not my home, it'll never be my home. It's telling in the language that she uses surrounding it. One of the lines I find really harrowing is this one. This is referencing her period. It says, the month grows old and some invisible hand forces its way into her body to squeeze her insides in an angry fist, twist her guts through its fingers and leave her sore and bleeding between the legs. We're having her period almost being described like a type of assault that happens to her every month. It's an invisible hand that forces its way inside of her. It's an angry fist. It's all these awful imagery, and I feel so bad for her. The world sort of opens up for Anka when she meets Yana, and I think it is also because Yana presents this possibility that you can live on your own. You can go out and hop between villages and be a woman and not be tied to a man. Like, she presents a hypothetical future for Anka that exists beyond being the captain's wife. And I think as well because Anka's grown up in a village where you follow the pattern of you get married, you have a husband, you give birth to babies, and the cycle goes on. She's now suddenly being presented with this idea that she can be someone else. She can move from the village without marrying a different person. That also, the captain's like, oh, I really tried to find you a husband, but no one would have you, Anka. You're just so cursed and no one wants you, so I guess I'll have to have you. I don't think he did. I don't think he tried hard enough to find her a husband. I question if he even tried at all. I don't think so. I think possibly he wanted to keep her for himself, which was always his intent. Always his intent. I think it's probably maybe also a lie that he's told himself. It's possible that in his head he really did try, but probably didn't do a very good job because he wanted to keep Anka. Gross. Anyway, so yeah, Anka and Yana are growing closer in their being co-conspirators with each other. Anka's becoming more and more interested in the work that Yana does in these sacrifices and staging these omens and setting up this whole tableau of this vampire being in the village. And Anka's got this like morbid curiosity surrounding all of that, and she's really interested in the sacrifices and killing the animals, and oh my god, there's a magpie. Speaking of superstitions. And then, as this happens, she starts to think about Yana being beautiful, and I just love it. I love it so much. What is it? It says, Yana's smile is beautiful, Anka thinks. It's just thrown in. It's just thrown in the middle of everything else. Like, other things are happening, and she's just like, her smile is beautiful. I really love their dynamic. I love how it's kind of sort of symbolizing this hope for Anka of like a future, and she finally can let herself like someone and want someone, and she's never had that because there's always been this looming threat of the captain over her, and she's finally sees a future and sees someone, and it's just, I love a relationship that moves slow and is all kind of promise, you know? It's just a little spark of something, and I think that's the best. It's the best. I want you, Anka says, bowing her forehead against Yana's. She even laughs. She wants to. There's something she wants. So Anka's getting weaker and weaker as there's more poison in her system, and she gets closer to her faked death. And then she basically sort of snaps. I think it's a little bit of the panic and a little bit of the bloodthirstiness, and she basically accuses the captain of being the vampire in the church and is sort of inciting the villagers to get him. And this kind of goes against everything that Yana does. Like, Yana doesn't incite witch hunts. She creates paranoia, but not ever towards like a person to get them dead. It's never that. And Anka is bloodthirsty in a different way than Yana, because I think how she was raised with Kiril and the captain, and that's kind of what she knows. You know, kill or be killed, I think, at this point, and that is how it ends. But I love her for it. I know it was a mess. I know she messed up and the whole like orchestrated plan sort of falls apart, but I don't think she had any other choice, and she was kind of delirious because she was poisoned. But I really loved that scene. I just thought it was so exciting and so much fun. We get this awful POV from the captain once he learns that Anka is ready to marry him. And it's awful and gross. And we then learn that he's the reason that Anka's parents are both dead. And and he's like telling her all this, kind of absolving himself of this guilt. But he knows that he kind of has her trapped. And he knows she's sort of got to go along with this. And he still looks to her for this forgiveness. And it's just, icky and gross and awful. And then he like hears her mother talking to him and is like, she just needs more time. Gross. Ugh. And then he's annoyed at Anka's real dad for lying to him about the mother not being home, because then that's the reason why the mother dies in the fire, is like she was upstairs. He didn't know she was upstairs, and it's just gross and awful. And this is what prompts Anka when she's in her like poisoned state to be like, monster, demon, this man is awful, he killed my parents, he wants to marry me, he thinks you're all idiots. And it's just so good. And it's just, I love drama, and it's just so juicy. Just her being in the church, accusing him of being this demon and outing all of his dirty laundry to the whole village. And then they still believe the captain. They're like, ah! This is also all Kiril's fault. If he hadn't have outed Anka to the captain wouldn't have taken her to the house of her dead parents and admitted his murders, and then she wouldn't have ended up in the church feeling that way and accusing him of being a demon and sort of ruining the plan that Anka, Yulia and Yana all had together. It's all Kiril's fault. It's all his fault. It could have all just been simple. No one had to die. Nothing bad had to happen apart from Anka kind of dying. But yeah, Kiril's fault, and I blame him. I blame him for it. But it was fun. It was fun. I did have a fun time. It's so awful as well, because the captain's in the church announcing to everyone that he's going to marry Anka, and she wasn't actually a bad omen. She was the first victim and all of this awful stuff that's been happening to the village. And now he's going to right it by marrying her. He says, God gave me a difficult task, caring for 2 children who were not my own, who had come to me by terrible chance, and I have done a poor job. I was never meant to be a father. That I've tried has brought no end of trouble. I understand that now. God had a different plan for us. We will right this wrong in just a few weeks' time. When we marry, we will help push out this darkness, counter it with light. Ew! So let's talk the end. Anka basically has no more options. Kiril thinks that she's going to the captain to basically ask that she doesn't marry him, which you would think if someone says, please don't marry me, that should be enough, right? Not in this world and not in that time, whatever the time is that this novel is set, which I can't remember. But she's not going in there to ask. I mean, she's gonna ask. She asks. She gives the captain an out, but she didn't. She went in there with a weapon and she was gonna use it. So and the thing that gets me is as well this whole thing of like the woman's weapon being poison and stuff, but them never really seeing Anka as being as dangerous as she really is, and the captain never fully seeing Anka for who she is. Like, he sees her as like this little feisty girl, but not someone who's like actually dangerous, never an actual threat apart from poisoning. So when she enters the room, he says, have you come to poison me, little bird? But it's also kind of just like it's like a mocking thing, you know? Like, he says, have you come to poison me? But I don't think he means it. And I don't think he's really afraid of it. Like, not properly. I think he underestimates her, which is so annoying. Like, he's never seen her for who she really is. He's always just made up his mind. He's got a fantasy image of who she is, which is her mother, basically. So he's never been able to see Anka for the threat that she is and the dangerous person that she is. And I'm glad he made that mistake, because I'm glad he's dead. This interaction starts awful as well. The captain, this is in the captain's point of view, he recognises Anka's knock, and it says, God help him, his breath catches. Again, he's the boy rinsing cleavers behind the shop, manic with want, his chest ready to burst. Ugh, gross. You raised this person. Anyway, Anka gives the captain a knife. She says, please just let me go. I could leave this village and go where nobody knows me. You don't need to marry me. I don't want it. You've been my father. I can't be your wife. Like, how can he hear this and still say no? Like, he says, his response is, you will learn. And then he kisses her. He sealed his fate by kissing her, because also he now gives her the opportunity to stab him in the neck. Good for her. He doesn't let go. It's just, the kiss is so violent and intrusive and just horrendous, and it's just to the point where you're glad. I mean, I was always going to be glad that she stabbed him, but like, the kiss is so awful that it's a relief when she stabs him. It's amazing, and I loved it. It says, he holds her tight until the sharp silver teeth drive hard into the skin of his throat. And then he can't be saved because she's coated the comb in poison. So she did end up poisoning him, but in such a violent way that I think he never would have expected. Like, I love her. I love her so much. Good for Anka. For following through. I mean, Kiril does fail her one last time because she did ask him to leave it. She said, if you hear anything, ignore it. Don't come. Whatever happens, don't. What does she say? Whatever you hear tonight, don't come in, no matter what it is. She says that. And he does. But her saving grace, I think, is Nina having talked to Kiril and making him look, like, forcing him to see who the captain is, and Kiril, in that little bit of like faltering, saves Anka by basically damning the captain to die, because Kiril doesn't step into action. What does it say? He stops short of a cliff, a dry riverbed beneath it. At the bottom he sees Nina, her body a patchwork of bruises stitched between her shallow cuts. He sees Yulia's white neck, bared for a rope. Like, he at least finally kind of sees the the captain's actions and who he is and what will happen if he does intervene and save him, and he chooses not to. But what is key is that Kiril's choice is inaction. It's inaction, and it's always inaction. Fuck Kiril. I already said this earlier in the video, but I just want to hammer home that his choice. He chose to come into the room. He could have chose to ignore it. He could have chose to listen to Anka, but instead he just goes into the room and then does nothing. I suppose I'd rather that than him saving the captain, but he could have just stayed out of it. Could have just listened to Anka. Could have just believed her. Could have just trusted her, but no. Anyway, I'm glad the captain's dead. And I'm glad Kiril didn't save him. For me, a big thing in how much I enjoyed the book is how much I liked the ending, and I loved this ending. I just find it so satisfying and good, and I felt like it was really nice to just know that Anka was free, and I think that's all I really wanted. That's all I wanted from the book, was just for Anka to be free. There's whole bits I haven't even touched on this book, but I've talked for way too long already. I haven't even touched on the witch that lives outside of the village, who's dating Yulia. Are they dating? Dating makes it sound like flippant. They're in love. I love them. So they're together, and I love that as well. The whole atmosphere of just this woman who lives just outside the bounds of the village that women can go to. It was just done really well. The atmosphere of this book was just perfect. I feel like sometimes I read books set in the past and I can't quite stay in the past. Sometimes things bring me out, or like I get confused about where we are, what we're doing, whereas this like kept me there. And I don't really know why. It was just the energy of it. Maybe it was just the candlelight and the fires and just the way that they all spoke. For me, the setting felt really strong. And I think as well, the folklore kept it in there as well. I love the way the folklore was done in this book. It was really good. And then because we have all this like whole witchy side of it as well, we have this old stories and stuff that are put in between some of the chapters. We have this story about a girl who's running away from a witch, and then that explains how the landscape was made. And I just really like little bits like that in books. I think it's really fun. And then how characters interact with those sort of things, I thought was great. And Yana's whole thing with like seeing her mum and stuff, and a lot of people in this book see spirits, and I'm not really fully sure if they really do, because I was taking Yana at face value that she was seeing her mother, but then the captain kind of hears Anka's mother, who's dead, and it made me question, is Yana really seeing her mother, or is this just like something that she's hallucinating? Like, I feel Yana's got skin that's both colours, and to me, because of where I'm from in Ireland, things that are speckled and have both colours on them show that they have themselves in both planes. So they're in both sides. So they're in this world and they're in the other world, and they are a mover between both of those things. So like in Ireland, a bird that's speckled is seen as a bird that travels between both of these worlds. And to me, that's who Yana is. And she is someone who can see both sides of these worlds. But can she? Or is she just kind of seeing her mother in like a normal human way of like, you know, sometimes some people just hear their loved ones when they've lost them, and I'm wondering, is that actually what's happening? Because the captain seeing or hearing Anka's mother, who's not really seeing because she's supporting his weird behavior, and there's no way she would be. So she's not really there. But is Yana's mum? Is Yana's mum really there? We'll never know, I guess. And it's like her skin is not presented as a thing that's connecting her to these worlds. Her skin is described from her mother's point of view as a way to sell the scam. The skin is like just the final thing of like, this is perfect. You can lean into this otherworldly look that you have to sell people on this narrative that we're feeding them. And is it real? Is it not? Who knows? Is anything supernatural real in this book? Or is it all fabricated? I suppose we'll never know if like the supernatural world really exists. The only hint we have that it does is Yulia. And it's hinted that Yulia has lived all these extra lives, and she's somehow really old, but looking younger than the woman that she's with. So what's going on? Part of me believes all this folklore stuff is real, and maybe just Yana isn't part of it. Like, she's not in it. If it was explained who Yulia is or what Yulia is, I didn't get it. Maybe I feel like I say this in every video I do. I might have to reread this to work out what Yulia is and who she, what's going on. What's going on with Yulia, because I would like to know. I will be rereading this. When I get a paperback copy of this book, I will be rereading it. I'm really excited. I just need to leave it long enough that I kind of forget and go a bit hazy on what some of the details are. But I think it's going to be really fun to reread. If you have any theories on who Yulia is, please let me know. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to hear any of your theories about anything, any opinions at all, even just how much you hated Kiril, because I would love to hear that. I need some reassurance that I'm not alone, because I read this book quite early, so I haven't been able to hear what other people's opinions are yet. I will. This video is going to go out when the book is out, so hopefully soon I'll find out what people think. Very, very excited to reread this book. Very excited to hear what you think. Yeah, that's all. Okay. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you in the next one. Slán go fóill.